And welcome back. So yeah, I know what you're gonna think. Yeah, we're heading in towards winter. Why am I looking at trying to top off the AC unit? Well, if you remember when we first started this, it was relatively warm outside when we actually did our first startup. And the air conditioner, although now working, was a little weak. Now I'm not seeing any leaks, any compressor oil, any obvious signs of refrigerant loss. But what I figured we would do is go ahead and just attempt to kind of check out the system and top things off. Now, what I'm going to try to use is just a can that you pretty much the standard stuff you can get at any automotive store in various different size cans. Now, this is the type that is meant to be used without a manifold gauge set. So it's not, if you're going to be doing something like this, we're just going to see what our pressure reading is in the system, by chance add a little bit of refrigerant to kind of top things off. This does not replace a full-on repair. If we find out that our pressure is low and continues to get low, then obviously we have a leak that needs to be serviced. But again, I'm not seeing signs of that leak. So again, these types of cans that come with the item that we've already attached, and I'll show you that in a second, it's kind of meant for, it is meant for the home user per se, but it's meant for just kind of topping things off. If this doesn't work, or if you have signs of an obvious leak or other part of the AC system that has failed, then obviously that needs to be serviced professionally with a proper vacuum being pulled on, and basically evacuate the system, do the repair work, pull a vacuum on the system, and then charge. So we're going to give this a shot in lieu of taking things further down the rabbit hole. Now, I do have a full-on set of manifold gauges and all the adapters to do this, but like I said, I want to give this a try first. Now, if this was a full-on repair and there was no refrigerant in the system, and we had to, let's say, replace a compressor or replace a condenser, then yes, I would have my gauge set out here. We would pull a vacuum on the system, verify no leaks, and charge accordingly. But like I said, we're just going to give this a shot first. So you can see this here, again, just picked it up at the parts store. And I've already taken the first step here and attached this to our low side fitting that you see there. Now, it's leading a little high in pressure because according to the can, what they want you to do is start the engine and have this attached. And when the compressor starts to run, this low side should drop. So that's all they want us to do first. And I've got it disconnected from the can because there is a Schrader valve in this particular one that keeps it from leaking. Because it's actually it doesn't pierce the can until you remove this tab and you're ready to use it again. They don't want it to leak or to, you buy an empty product. So all I've done here is went ahead and just took the can off to make this a bit easier. And we're going to start the vehicle, engage the compressor, and see where our pressure falls. Now, if our pressure falls into the green area, then there's nothing more that we need to do. It means we've got sufficient charge in the system. And if we continue to have like weak AC, lack of AC, whatever you want to call it, then we'll have to take it in and get it properly diagnosed. But right now, the reason why this is high and kind of a little bit into the red is because, again, the system's not running, the compressor's not running, but once this compressor kicks in, we should see that gauge drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause you, get you zoomed in here, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, so I got you zoomed in. What I'm going to do is go start the truck and kick on the AC. You can see that our pressure is now way down here, almost at zero, not quite, but almost. So you can see our system is actually quite low. This one can of refrigerant might not take care of it for us. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect this gauge, and then I'll bring you, I'll reattach this and I'll bring you right back. Now that we got our can attached, I'm just going to give it a couple of squirts with a trigger. Now what they want you to do is rotate this can between 1 and 3 degrees, which is going to be kind of hard to do because of the size of the can and the space, but we'll give it a shot. You see we're coming up a little bit higher on low now. See, we're about halfway up, and I just rotated the can there a little bit like they suggested. Give it a little bit more. Coming back up still. Again, I'm just giving it a little bit pulses. Give it a little bit more. Coming back up. Almost out of the white at this point. What we're aiming for is some place into the green. Okay, we're getting closer. Getting there. Almost. Almost into the green at this point. We're getting closer. So what I'm doing, when you see me tilting between up and down, what you're doing is you're alternating between putting gas in and putting liquid in. And the compressor just kicked off, which is why you saw the needle shoot up there. So our compressor is now on, and you can see that we're now into the green. And when it goes off, we're still into the green. Compressor is now cycling on and off like you would expect it to. So it's behaving better. I'm going to give it a little bit more juice. And I'm laying off the trigger. I'm not squeezing the trigger when I'm taking the pressure reading. Okay, there you go. We're now in the green when running. Compressor is off. Compressor is on.
bit more here, and then we'll stop, and we'll give it a shot. We'll try it out. Yep, but our refrigerant line is getting nice and cold now, better than it was before. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit more, and then we're going to try it. Okay, we're nice and steady into the green when the compressor is running. That's with the compressor off. Compressor's now on. We're now staying into the green when the compressor is running versus when it's off. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to disconnect our fitting. And put our cap back on. Okay, our cap is on. Now let's go inside the cab and see what our AC now feels like. Now keep in mind, it still is a relatively cool day today, but we're above the minimum temperature suggested for even charging an automotive AC. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're blowing a lot better cold. Oh yeah, much better. Okay, let me go see if I can get a digital thermometer, and I'll bring you right back. And welcome back. So let's see here. Just gonna turn on the little light. Hopefully you can see that. We're pushing out about 40 degree air at this point, so that's about probably about a 20 degree temperature difference with what the current air is right now. Let's see if we can catch it when the compressor kicks back on. So I just heard a click. There you go. Now we're dropping in temps. Good, awesome. So again, probably about well, probably not quite a 20 degree. There we go, 36, 37. Now we're dropping, so that's good. We're showing about a 20 degree temperature difference between inside and outside, at least currently. So we're putting out, what was that, about 32 degree air. So nice, beautiful. That will work. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and shut this down. Go ahead and turn the AC off since we don't currently need it. A little too cool for that. So with that being said, and feeling what's left in the can, we probably have about a half a can. From just, again, I didn't weigh this ahead of time, but just kind of going by feel. So we were probably, and this is about a pound 6 ounces. So we were probably, what, maybe about half a pounder. I would say probably about half a pound at this point low on refrigerant. And when I looked up the specs on it, let's see if yeah, it should tell us here what it is. So that is a diesel, a 5.7 liter. Looks like the refrigerant factory charge is 1 pound 10 ounces, and we were about a half a pound out. So yeah, this it was actually substantially low, and that's agreed to by the gauge that you saw when we first hooked up to the service point and started the engine. So what we'll have to do now is, obviously we won't be running it much left for the year, but you know, when it comes to be springtime, and of course when it warms up to where this truck will be going, we'll just have to keep an eyeball on it and see if the cooling capability starts to diminish again. And if it does, then that tells us that we have a leak in the system somewhere. And if it does leak down, then obviously it'll be time to turn it in for service work and get it properly diagnosed. And normally part of that diagnostics would be is that you would have an individual that would put dye in the system when they added the missing refrigerant, and that dye will help them, you know, usually by using a UV blacklight, help them diagnose where the particular leak where the particular leak might be. Sorry, but like I said, we're kind of getting ready to head into the, you know, couple of months or, you know, X number of months of winter here. So the air conditioning really isn't a huge priority in this truck right now, but it is something I wanted to top off and at least attempt to start to address before this vehicle goes to its next user. But as you saw there, it's a pretty straightforward installation. At least how this particular can wants you to operate is to leave this tab in place, which separates the valve from dispensing the refrigerant contents. They want you to do a pressure reading at first with the air conditioner turned on full, you know, obviously engine running, and what you're going to do is they want you to look at that pressure gauge there. And if you're already in the green, the yellow, or especially the red, then they want you adding no refrigerant at all. So when you saw us start up and it pretty much dipped maybe down to about 5 pounds on the needle, that's when we went ahead and just started adding refrigerant at that point. Obviously, if you plug this in, if you got a cooling problem and you plug this gauge in, at least per what they're saying, and you see that you're already filled yellow or in the red with the compressor running, then obviously you've got an issue within the AC system somewhere. It could be clogged, it could be restricted, something along that nature, and it would have to be taken to, you know, a professional shop to have it diagnosed and remedied. But in this case, if it's low, then what they have you do is disconnect your line, take this plastic fitting off, which allows the can to open up the pressure valve and the trigger to open up the valve in the can and allows you to dispense refrigerant. Plug your line back on and give it a squeeze. What I was doing was giving it a squeeze, letting it go, checking the pressure, and then they want you to alternate between 12 and 3 while you're dispensing. And what you're doing there is what I can imagine that you're doing is that you're in this state, you're dispensing a gas into the system. When you go to this state, it's more of a liquid that's now running forward. So it looks like they're having you alternate between dispensing a liquid in the system and a gas in the system. So what I was doing, as you saw there, I'd squeeze it for a couple of seconds, let it go, check the pressure. If it was still in the low area, not in the green, tilt it sideways, squeeze it, let it go, check the pressure, tilt it back up, squeeze, let it go, check the pressure. And what I was doing is, as the compressor was cycling, you saw when it cycles, the pressure will dip down. When the compressor shuts off, it'll start to come up because you're adding refrigerant to the system. So you're going to have a higher pressure with it running and not running. You'll have a higher pressure with the compressor not running than with. So when the compressor is running and you'll be able to hear it click, that's when I was checking the pressure on the gauge to see if we still needed to add more or not. So with the compressor running, if it was still low or just barely in the green, that's why I kept squeezing the trigger until we got, you know, probably not quite halfway in the green, a decent part in the green. So when the compressor was running, it stayed in the green. And when you saw when it wasn't running, it was at the green or maybe just a touch into the yellow again. The pressure is going to be higher with it not running. So I guess the key here is, as you saw, just squeezing the trigger, letting it go, check, double check, triple check, and I'm only squeezing that trigger probably maybe a couple of seconds at a time because I just don't want to overfill the system. So it's probably way too much explanation on that. Like I said, it's a fairly straight process. Just follow the instructions on the can, and in this case, it did resolve our issue. But in longer term, we'll have to keep an eyeball out on where we may have a potential leak
in said system. But with that being said, it's just going to be a short one for you today. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I do thank you. I'll bring you along for the next one. And we've got one more item checked off of this list. We got a few more things coming up before we wrap this series up for good and then get this vehicle off to its intended owner. But that is coming up here soon. And with that being said, I thank you. Bring you back to the next one.